We're coming, and we ain't backing down.
We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror.
Everybody just do your job. You understand that?
Hey, will you shut up?
I'm bitterly disappointed with the officiating today.
Guys being dudes.
And they run through our like through a tin horn, man.
Thank you, Lee. And of course, yet again, we hope that Lee Corso's health is in a good place and that he returns to College game day very, very soon. But we are an NFL podcast, first and foremost. And I do quickly want to blaze through something NFL that obviously becomes CFB adjacent because it happened this week. Fellas, do you know who will be the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday?
How could I not know a Ring of Honor member of the Indianapolis Colts, Jeff Saturday? Who doesn't think about Jeff Saturday for a job like this?
I did see a clip of it. I saw a clip of him on TikTok screaming at Peyton. So he got like marginally cooler in my book.
He did.
Oh, is it the you call the plays?
Just play center, Jeff.
Dude,
just
man.
play center.
Yeah, he put
He's
Pepe in his
calling
place.
plays.
It was awesome.
It's pretty good. The funny thing, though, is that Jeff Saturday is not the only person now on the Colts coaching staff who's in the Ring of Honor. Reggie Wayne is in the Ring of Honor. Was a wide receiver with Jeff Saturday and Peyton Manning on those really great teams in the early 2000s. Reggie Wayne, you would say, to be fair, probably does not have the requisite experience to be an NFL head coach or an NFL interim head coach. I think that's pretty fair. He's only been on the coaching staff for a year, had some volunteer stints with the Colts, and is in the Colts Ring of Honor. But fellas, you know who he has more coaching experience than at the NFL level? Fucking Jeff Saturday. Jeff Saturday was a high school coach who had a 20-16 record, and I should be fair to Jeff Saturday, a playoff win, I believe, at the high school level. He is now the interim head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Look, is this the biggest deal in NFL coaching history? No. But is it, on the edge-wise, something that we should harp and push on as we try to increase hiring diversity in the NFL? Yes. The Colts fired black offensive coordinator Marcus Brady a couple weeks ago. Fired Frank Reich on Monday. Jim Irsay was able to plausibly do this because Marcus Brady wasn't in the building. Gus Bradley, John Fox, both of them are in the building. They're on staff. I think you can plausibly pass over those guys as interim head coaches because, they're stale. They had bad head coaching runs, yada, yada, yada. You can even pass over Bubba Ventrone, who is a rising coach at the NFL level, which they did. But because of the plight of the league, I'm sure Irsay, and I don't know how much Chris Ballard is complicit in this, the general manager, but you pass over Marcus Brady by firing him and getting him out of the building. You probably weren't able to pass over him if he was in the building. Look, why does this matter? Why does this matter for college football?
Why does this matter? Isn't he just going to be a steward for a bad team, Richard?
Well, I mean, look, on the NFL level, first and foremost, if he's just a steward for the team and Jim Irsay's eyes and ears, that says something to the guys in that locker room who are in a shit division and could potentially still make a playoff push. Matt Ryan is benched right now with a bum shoulder because he's got a $17 million injury guarantee that I guarantee Irsay doesn't want to pay, because if Matt Ryan fails a physical in March, he gets $17 million from the team. Side note, again, why does it matter for college football? It matters for college football because you got Carnell Williams at Auburn, you got Mickey Joseph at Nebraska, you've got two black coaches who are getting invaluable resume and coaching experience because they're in this role. I do not expect Mickey Joseph or Carnell Williams to get their permanent jobs. Interims typically don't get their permanent jobs. But when you've got black coaches and you're trying to increase hiring diversity, on-the-job training can help these guys in a future interview setting. And there's no better on-the-job training than 6 or 8 weeks in the belly of the beast like Carnell Williams is getting right now at Auburn. It's dealing with media. It's dealing with players. It's dealing with players who probably want to leave in the transfer portal. It's, game management shit, all that kind of stuff. You never learn it. It's impossible to. And for black coaches who aren't going to get, second chances when they fail as a head coach more often than not, the on-the-job training is never really going to come. So look, is that the biggest deal as far as hiring diversity is concerned? But it does matter, and it is disappointing, and it is insulting that the Colts are doing this.
Well said. Thank you, Richard, for starting our show that way. Hope everyone pays attention to what Jim Irsay is doing and to
drugs,
the downstream effect that it could have on the way the coaching industry operates and who gets a shot and who doesn't. Fellas, to college football. Let's talk about an interim coach, actually a black interim coach, come to think of it, who did get his full-time coaching job. And let's talk about the coach who left the school where that coach is now to set this chain of events in motion.
Okay.
Notre Dame and LSU both had big weekends in week 10. Notre Dame beat down Clemson pretty severely in South Bend, and obviously LSU beat Alabama in overtime. Let me ask a question. So Marcus Freeman takes over for Notre Dame after Brian Kelly leaves for LSU, and I think this was sort of an everybody seems pretty happy situation in the offseason. Freeman, rising star, great defensive mind, great recruiter as well, was obviously ready resume-wise for a job like this. And for Kelly's part, he's Brian Kelly. He's been a very winning coach for a long time. So LSU can say, we got our guy, no matter how many other guys they explored before they landed on Brian Kelly. But then the season actually happened, and it started out looking not awesome for LSU. For one part, they had some special teams disasters and they lost in week 1. They lost a few weeks after that to Tennessee, but really didn't start well for Notre Dame, which in addition to an Ohio State game, lost to Marshall, which didn't even turn out to be very good. Is it possible, I would ask, given that LSU is on a nice run now and that Notre Dame is even on a nice run now, having beaten Clemson, having beaten North Carolina a couple weeks before that, month and a half before that, is it possible that everybody involved here ends year 1 of Brian Kelly at LSU, of Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, that everyone here ends this year thinking, wow, we're better off than we were at the start of the 2022 season?
No, Marshall beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, that I will say that is still very bad.
Stanford too. I was even being charitable. I even left that one out.
Both of those things are still very, very bad. But I think that when you're Notre Dame and you're Marcus Freeman, and look, they still play USC, by the way. Notre Dame under Marcus Freeman, with Marcus Freeman right now, that was always a future thing, right? Marcus benefits because that was always a future thing. The thing that I had heard around the program when Brian Kelly left was that there was going to be a locker room mutiny if Marcus Freeman didn't get the job, and there was going to be a recruiting class mutiny if Marcus Freeman didn't get the job. And it's one of the reasons Marcus Freeman got the job. And I credit Jack Swarbrick for pretty much not really considering pretty much anybody else for this job at that time. Look, the Notre Dame's recruiting class right now is, I believe, it's in the top 5. It is like chock full of 4 stars, have a couple 5 stars. Like it's where it needs to be if you're Notre Dame and you're building to at least try to level up from where you were, which is good playoff level, playoff entrant, get in there and get smoked. Yes, 12 team playoff, yada, yada, yada. What Notre Dame needs, I think, more than anything else, is a quarterback. I gotta have a quarterback. I don't know if it comes transfer portal. I don't know if they have a late ad. I don't really know the whims of the quarterback market on the prep recruiting level, but they got to get a quarterback.
Richard, you told me Marshall was a byproduct of skill position play.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they're going to add some wide receivers here in this recruiting class. So I think we're going to be good there, but we're not going to be able to man ball in January.
Okay.
Which is what this program, and I think plausibly, should want to do and want to get to, which is win a game or 2 in January,
yes,
which they have not done.
That is the thing. That is, yeah. So the entire crux of this, when we examined it in the offseason, was that Brian Kelly felt like he wasn't the problem, that Notre Dame was the problem in terms of the January woes. Notre Dame felt like, no, we can actually find someone who understands us better and utilizes us better than you have to solve the January woes. I will say, Alex, totally fair topic to bring in given the results of last week. I would be incomplete on both of these evaluations. I know we're going to do a lot of bully for Brian Kelly here. It was a hell of a win. It was one of the most well-coached wins I've seen in LSU in a long time. we're talking about a very, very small data set. So I didn't mean this. I don't want to bridge directly into LSU yet, but I still have my hands off. It's going to make some LSU fans mad, but I'm sorry.
To stay on Notre Dame, some of that, what happened last weekend,
that's Clemson,
has
isn't
to do
it?
with Clemson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've been saying that. You've been saying this for 6 weeks, man.
Yeah,
take a lap.
Some of that has to do with Clemson as well. And I don't want to take anything away from Notre Dame when I say that, because Notre Dame beat them over the head with a blunt object. And that was really impressive. And I've never seen a Clemson front, not recently, get smacked like they did over the head, to the point that Tommy Rees, late in the fourth quarter, offensive coordinator Tommy Rees, said, "Hey, fellas, I'm going down to the field to celebrate. Just call duo while I'm not in here."
Yes, I love that.
That's fantastic from Tommy Rees, by the way.
College football shit. Dude, he tied a belt to the steering wheel and ducked in the back for a sec. That's amazing. I didn't know that.
I don't have a ton on Clemson here. I should say I don't want to make this an entirely Clemson, but I don't think you can tell the story of Saturday without saying that Clemson has lost the plot over the last year and change. Yes, it was a 15-game winning streak, but they did not get where they wanted to go last year. I don't think they're going to get where they want to go this year.
Alex.
Steven.
We have discussed the positioning of hiring Brian Kelly as a certain psychological and emotional salve for what I just call the country club LSU fan. Have we not?
Yeah, this is something that you have been pretty consistent about since the moment Brian Kelly was hired, that Scott Woodward is that kind of administrator. That's sort of the crowd that he caters to, which makes sense because that's oftentimes where the money is.
Yes.
So I agree with you that it was a country club hire.
Yes.
But
Richard is going to explain in a very rational, pragmatic way the situation at Alabama in just a second. But before we get there, I cannot overstate the positive psychological and emotional impact that has been bestowed upon LSU by this man. I disagree in some ways about, it doesn't matter, culture fit, fit, winning is a fit, because over the long term, when you go over the aggregate, it's a huge indicator of problems down the road. Okay. But for right now, what he has done as someone who endures or receives as much LSU talk as humanly possible for someone who's not from Louisiana and doesn't hold a degree from LSU, this is what they've wanted since 2007, since Nick Saban came back to the league and spurned them in their eyes. This is what they've wanted. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, well, LSU's beaten Nick Saban before. At Les Miles, at Orgeron, they beat Nick Saban. This was a tactician's win in their eyes. This was a strategy based. This was Matt House could be governor of Louisiana tomorrow.
Frame it, baby. Frame that game plan, baby.
Matt House.
Frame that game plan.
This is the defensive coordinator.
Yes, this is
of
the
LSU.
defensive coordinator
who came from the NFL, came from the Chiefs.
Yes, there's still a tepid sort of response of like, well, we really like Jaden Daniels, but like they wanted to fire Denbrock until 3 weeks ago. Okay, after the Tennessee loss,
Denbrock was at Cincinnati for a few years, but Denbrock had been with Brian Kelly at Notre Dame for like ever.
Yes, and it really isn't unfair to say like he came off the fickle tree. He's a Brian Kelly guy, and I like a lot of what he does. But LSU fans were incensed and thought it was too conservative, not creative enough. I think they're going to eat some of that now. The defensive game plan here, after watching the myth making of Nick Saban over the last 2 decades, I cannot overstate the psychological positive impact that LSU is receiving from this win. Now, we can transition in a second to what Alabama is this? Why is this happening? I'm not trying to take your flowers from you, but I am saying this.
No. Stick on LSU for a little bit.
This win psychologically has changed the DNA of LSU's moneyed class. They have received what they have wanted for the better part of 20 years, because this was a different win. This wasn't Ed Orgeron just piling fucking talent. And I mean, piling talent on in a 2019 situation where you just simply exhaust the clip in a shootout.
Well, shit, it worked. It worked.
It did work temporarily, right? This isn't Les Miles bumblefucking in 2010 to upset them at home. This was a tactician's win. This was the statesman that they wanted to answer to sort of, it's call and response. They wanted someone who could win in the country club the way Saban does, and they feel like they have that now. Do they have that now in the long term? Probably not the conversation we should have right now.
Probably. But Stephen, I want to talk about the psychological thing that you mentioned. I wrote something this week that I want to talk about here, sort of the point that I was making. I wrote this at Slate Magazine. I think that LSU this year is almost the perfect encapsulation of where big time blue blood program college football is going. And there are a couple ways in which that's true that are obvious. One is obviously the heavily portaled up roster. Jaden Daniels wasn't here last year.
Right.
The defense has numerous important transplants. Two guys named Mackay, by the way. Garner, the safety, and Wingo, the tackle.
No, you had transfers from the ULL. It was piecemeal in a positive way.
They did a very good job with their roster management in the offseason. And also they have a number of true freshmen, by the way, who are really good contributors for this team.
Yes.
Dude, Harold Perkins is going to be the best defensive player in the country.
He's going to be pretty good. Also, they have two freshman tackles playing offense.
Well, this is the thing. And this is the thing where this coaching staff deserves a lot of credit. Harold Perkins is a guy who couldn't really see the field in the beginning of the season. And look, he's got to get stronger against the run. He probably needs to play in a more natural position, and he probably will over the next couple of years.
One of those freshman tackles is a kid from Monroe, because I think my in-laws know him. But like he got cooked against Florida State, and then you see the development now, and like that's why they're excited. I can talk to you on a granular level about the development here, and like
they couldn't keep Jaden Daniels upright against Florida State.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Jaden Daniels was only in the game against Florida State because Garrett Nussmeier can't run.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And so now,
and I think that the fact that they were able to say on defense, let's get this guy on the field and figure out a way to use him on offense. Let's let those guys take their lumps, coach them up, and we'll see on the other side. Like, that's where a team like LSU is just, I think, like Oregon, one of those teams where you've got to take the first 6 weeks, and I don't necessarily say throw them out, but take the first 6 weeks and say, okay, full stop. What are you going to be for the next 6 weeks, the back half of the season? And I think just like Oregon, LSU is a team that you take the back half of the season, you say, well, shit, man, they're getting better and developing and congealing over the course of the season going on, and that is good coaching.
The psychology there, to go back to that, it's not just the beating Saban or just the Alabama part of it. It's also the order of magnitude, because they're looking, if you sort of think about plotting this on a line graph of emotion, LSU fans saw a very LSU type performance of more talented, underdeveloped, and poor execution in the Florida State game. They are now plotting that in the emotional expectations graph of that's here, and now we just beat Alabama. So that's the trajectory Brian Kelly is going to take us on, Alex, the entire time he's here. This is how you get into the fervor. This is how you build that get people whipped up.
That's part of the psychology thing here too. So yeah, there's a lot of teams that are going to portal up. In the future, there's going to be more teams like LSU, by the way, that start rough and still have time to recover as at least a nominal national title contender, because the playoff's going to be bigger. They're doing it in a 14 playoff, because if you win the SEC with 2 losses, you're going to make the playoff. Mm-hmm. But the other thing, and this is important and kind of goes back to what you were saying, I just think we're at a point now, and I think the line of demarcation was this one weekend or these couple weeks at the end of 2021 when this happened, where if you're a program like LSU, I think a lot of people who care about you just aren't going to feel satisfied if you do not have a Brian Kelly or a name or like a trophy head coach who you can hold up and show around how big time you are. And I just think that's kind of college football psychology. And you see this get some schools into trouble. It's verging on disaster in College Station, Texas at the moment that they try to do this. By the way, the same athletic director. But if you get it right, there's a reason why these coaches are brand names. Brian Kelly is really good at coaching football, and I feel a little weird that we're so fervently praising this guy, given who he is and what he's done.
I'm not.
But he's good. He's good at this.
I didn't expect him to beat Alabama. I'm not going to say that like I expected this to happen before the season. I still question the overall trajectory and the problems that Brian Kelly presented that I think that are not germane to Notre Dame, that will still crop up down the stretch. I think we are using an incredibly small sample size to say Brian Kelly Check. I don't like that.
But yes, I'm actually fine. I mean, of course, any tenure can, and most do, break bad. Ed Orgeron got fired a year and a half after winning a national title. But you would think that roster-wise, you would think that this would probably be Brian Kelly's worst or close to his worst LSU team. And look what they are.
Two things I have to say really fast. My father-in-law, who listens to every single show, I had 7 missed calls after midnight. He was trying to call me from the field. And the reason why he and my brother-in-law had stormed the field, the reason why was not to be like, hey, we're on the field, da-da-da, go Tigers. It was that on this show, we did a segment, gentlemen, back in August, where we all hypothetically picked who would be the last place team in the West. And your boy said, oh, I'll take LSU. Not because I believed LSU would finish last necessarily, because I wanted to try and mount that argument. And that is what my in-laws were thinking about as they were on the field of Tiger Stadium. So, yeah.
The North remembers.
Yes, they do. And I'll see y'all on Thanksgiving. It's funny, though, because they did make a point to me this summer. And when I pointed out my concerns about Kelly, Alex, they shrugged and they said something that was so insane to me at the time, but it's completely factually accurate. He goes, well, look, the expectation for Brian Kelly, and this is a TAF member, this is someone who's been going to LSU games his entire life, holds multiple degrees. He goes, the expectation is he's going to win at least one national title. And I thought, what a bunch of bullshit bravado. And then I realized that every single head coach since they fired DiNardo when I was 18 or 19 or whatever, has won at least one national title.
It's the same thing with Auburn. Auburn's going to hire a coach, and you're going to hear they better go undefeated at some point in time, and you're going to be like, whoa, you're Auburn, you're a mess, da-da-da-da. And then you look back at the last 40 years.
Yeah, and even Tubbs kind of has a claim on a national title in a dumber era. Like that team was national
Same
title
with Terry
caliber.
Bowden.
Yeah, and so if you told me that Brian Kelly's going to win a national title at LSU, I would say probably. And then at the same time, Alex, I would also say and he still might be out on his ass within a measure of 12 to 24 months. Because the DNA of LSU has not changed.
That's just the cost of doing business. And if that's the case, he'll get paid.
I will say this about Matt House, because I'm interested in how this projects into a 12-team playoff era. Matt House comes from
the Chiefs.
Again, comes from the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah. His boss, Kansas City Chiefs, Steve Spagnuolo. Spags is at his best in one game season game plan scenarios. What that Chiefs defense does more often than not in the playoffs, Bills game aside, last year, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
So wait, hang on. Let me ask you. Wait, so he throws everything out and then builds bespoke week to week? Because that's the assumption that every coordinator does that. Is that true?
In the NFL, yes, but in the playoffs, Spags is really good at doing that. That's one of his
from scratch, specifically for this 7 days. This is our book.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And especially when you pair it with, the mini best quarterback of all time on the other side.
Oh, shit.
It fucking works. But I say that to say, I'm interested in how that, if you project forward, how that aids in LSU.
Okay.
We've seen, even last year, we've seen LSU in this same Alabama spot come out of a bye week with a game plan nobody'd seen and push Alabama to the brink. Obviously, this year they got over the hump. And it's just one of the things that I think about as far as I project forward, because you would imagine that an LSU that's at this level will be in a 12-team playoff and have an opportunity to make some.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you this now. If you're a Tiger fan, you're not going to have him for long. He will be a head coach.
I want to go back to Notre Dame for 1 second before we move on. I think it's possible. In fact, not even possible. I think we did. I would just say I think we did. And I think this show did this specifically, but we weren't alone in college football media. I think we maybe over-rotated on, Notre Dame is it's a new era. You get rid of you this authoritarian who also happens to be a really good coach, but is not likable by any stretch, leaves. And now you've got this much chiller guy with a perfect resume, Marcus Freeman. You're changing up the way that you do business, and things are going to be good. Obviously, that undersold the difficulty of being a head coach at a place like Notre Dame and being good quickly. And I think that we should wear that one.
Okay.
But I do think that you can tell a pretty good story about Notre Dame if this season goes the way that it looks like it's going to go. And let's even assume that they lose to USC, where you consider this to be a bridge year, and you say it was inevitably going to be a bridge year when Tyler Buckner got hurt, even though they probably didn't QB recruit well enough anyway.
Okay.
And you can tell yourself a good enough story because you beat Clemson. You also beat North Carolina, which is going to go like 10-2 or 11-1.
Okay.
You beat BYU, and you can basically throw out, if you want, if you're the spinning type, which, by the way, Notre Dame has to be because that's how you recruit in college football, and say, well, yeah, we had some growing pains, but. And I think that they're successfully doing that because they're still holding together a very un-Notre Dame-like recruiting class. They're currently number 3 for 2023.
Alex, I want to say, I think you and I, maybe on a patron show, discussed this, that was the metric of success until like 23 as a season kicks off, until September of 23 for Freeman. It was not going to be a win-loss record in 2022. Now, however, I did not expect, you have to acknowledge losing to a G5 team like Marshall at home. Like that. I'm not saying to throw it out. Okay. I'm not saying throw it out, but I'm saying that the metric for success for Notre Dame was not going to be immediate on-field results. Look, the guy, how long did it take for him to have his first win? It was always going to be
3 games.
It was always going to be, what are you doing to close that January gap? We're not going to January right now. I'm pretty sure as I say this, that the Notre Dame culture at large was not expecting Marcus to take us to the playoff in 22. I don't think that was ever acknowledged based on the state of that roster.
And I think he benefits because of that.
Absolutely. Whereas, but in Baton Rouge, they were not expecting to be even on the outside of the playoff this year. What are they, 10th in the stupid ranking?
Home still holds.
Yes, absolutely. But I will say this. If you beat USC, if you solve them, especially defensively, a team USC that is not SEC but has that caliber of athlete, which has been sort of the bugaboo around Notre Dame. We can't compete with the caliber of athlete. If you solve them defensively and win that game, what I just described to you about the trajectory from a Florida State loss to an Alabama win in Baton Rouge will be doubly true in South Bend. They will carry that and go, look where we were, look where we're headed. And the offseason will be peaked for the Irish until they play again.
Let's go back to the Southeastern Conference as we move to the team that LSU just beat. We got a lot of questions this week from Patreon subscribers about Alabama, as is wont to be the case when Alabama has 2 losses before the middle of November.
Oh,
yeah.
How many losses?
2, Richard? 2. That's one more than 1, but 1 less than 3.
I will let you get let you get a victory lap on this.
Never wrong.
I will
Never wrong.
Finish it.
Never wrong.
No, finish it.
Just early.
Way early.
Just early.
Did you say they were going to fucking run the ball a bunch this year?
No, that's the problem. The problem is I really did think they were going to come out this year and paper over some of the cracks that we're going to talk about with getting back to, embracing tradition.
If you open a copy of Dave Campbell's Texas Football, they very stupidly ask me to do this every year. And I say, hey, I'm a moron. And I called Richard and I said, and he told me about this, they're going to run the ball shit. So I picked Jahmyr Gibbs to win the Heisman in the Texas Football.
Well, I don't think that's very misplaced, by the way.
Well, he's not going to win the Heisman. He's not even going to go to New York.
No, well, I don't think it's misplaced to say Jahmyr Gibbs is like about the only thing they got on that
I don't
offense.
really care, to be honest. I put Iowa State. I put Iowa State in a playoff in the same magazine like 2 years ago. I don't give a shit.
You did. You sure did. I'm going to just sample some of the questions we got about Alabama. Josh S. asked if Bill O'Brien has wasted Bryce Young by having a schemeless offense. Georgia is a verb asked how we should frame this team narrative-wise. Ryan P. asked how we'd assess Bama's struggles this year. A few people asked if there was a state law in Alabama that could lead to Bill O'Brien being put in some kind of corrective facility.
It's Josh S., I assume, has to be a Tiger, right? Like Josh S. has to be a Bama fan.
But Richard, let's start here on the Bill O'Brien matter.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know the answer to this question. I'm curious if you think you know the answer to this question. I don't think Bill O'Brien's like the worst football coach in the world. And if he weren't a shitty GM with the Houston Texans while also being the head coach, I think the general vibe with which people talk about him would be different.
Can I pause?
Is this his fault?
Hang on. Before Richard gives a smart answer, can I ask how old you two were the last time Alabama had multiple in-season losses?
Was it the Citrus Bowl year?
No, it happened in 2017 or 18.
Jerry Jeudy. It was like Jerry Jeudy.
Mac Jones was the quarterback in the bowl game after Tua got hurt. This was recent.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about like don't count the conference. I'm talking about right now having 2 losses this early.
Oh,
this
you're
point.
counting
Yes.
At this point.
the regular.
I believe it's 2010.
It was the South Carolina year when
Yes. So that was
Alshon Jeffrey
2010.
went fucking
They did
crazy.
lose 2 regular season games in the year that I'm talking about as well.
Yes.
In 2019, I believe it is.
What I'm saying is an Alabama reality of we are not going to the playoff. We are not going to contend for the national title. And y'all, it isn't even time to buy a Thanksgiving turkey yet. That's what I'm talking about.
Not this soon. No, not this soon. In that
My
other game,
point
they
being
lost
is
to
that
Auburn.
this is not a new landscape because I've lived through it. I lived through Shula and DuBose and everything else. A lot of you are about to experience a million Josh S's being unleashed into the landscape of this sport. That's what I was trying to set up. Now, Richard, go be smart.
Well, you're talking about you're basically talking about like an Alabama that's irrelevant in November,
Or just not like an absolute national title lock, and they lose their minds.
Right. Look, is Bill O'Brien going to win the Burroughs Award? Probably not. Should he win the Burroughs Award? Probably not.
No.
I don't think Bill O'Brien is completely blameless here. I think they're working with what they got, man. And I think you were seeing the limitations of what they've got. Again, when you combine this year with last year, it paints a total picture. Last year, they were pushed to the brink by Florida, by LSU, by Auburn. They lost to Texas A&M.
Right.
Yes, they won the game against Georgia, magically found an offensive line against Georgia, figured it out, and Bryce Young went Super Saiyan. But last year, the cracks were there.
Okay.
They just didn't all the way crack because Bryce Young is an absolute monster. This year, I think part of the reason is it's not like the offensive line's gotten any better, even though they took a transfer at left tackle, even though they brought back a couple of the same parts. My thing with Bryce in this passing game is the difference was last year he's being pressured like crazy, and the outlets were Jamison Williams and John Mechie.
Right, and then who also were missing from the title game. I mean, like they're throwing to like their number 4, number 5 option in the second half of the title game.
Yes, because Mechie got hurt early, and then Jameson Williams obviously got hurt early in the game.
This kind of scares me. If I'm a Bama fan, what you're saying scares me a hell of a lot more than this year, because now you're talking about something that's systemic.
He doesn't. They don't have that this year. They don't have that. Jahmyr Gibbs led them in receptions.
Yeah, he was
Saturday.
like the little dump. I mean, they were like dumping off to him a lot, right?
Even if you're Notre Dame, HB Angle cannot be.
That's what I was trying to describe. Thank you.
That can't be your passing game. You cannot.
So funny.
That cannot be the foundation.
It's such a troll move in Madden, though.
On this point, one reassessment that I am doing of Alabama's entire Nick Saban run in the last couple of days is, did we understate the importance, even as we realized it was important all these years, of having that dude, at least one of them, at wide receiver basically every year?
Post Kiffin, yes, definitely.
No, even before, and I want to talk about that specifically.
Okay.
How do people think, Stephen? Like, what is the kind of image in your head stereotypically of what Bama's offense was pre-Lane Kiffin before he gets there?
Derrick
I have to point this out. Not Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram. I have to point this out because it's just a weird dovetail I'm experiencing in my life right now. I'm working on a project for Secret Base. I can't say what yet. It's a big one. I am currently reading 4 books at the same time about the Nick Saban era at Alabama. 4 of these books. And I always mispronounce this word, the hagiography. It's insane. Anyway, I can tell you exactly what it is, Alex, because I was reading about it last night at about 10:30. It was Mark Ingram. It was Julio Jones was considered to be the psychological, there's that word again, turning point for the perception of Alabama when they signed Julio Jones, because he was a late push by, I believe it was Oklahoma and a bunch of other schools. And where he's from, he's basically from Mobile. He's from Foley, but like that had been raided by Saban at LSU, and then Miles was still doing it. And Mobile was considered open territory for the Florida schools. Getting Jones changed that. And then do you know what they did to Julio Jones? Basically, they turned him into a downfield blocker.
Decoy?
He was he had his stats. Like, Julio
Julio went
Go
off.
go back and look at the way Julio would score a 60-yard touchdown from scrimmage. Because it was
like a screen.
It was 5. The ball was in the air for 5 yards, and then he's just punching dudes in the throat as he goes down the sideline, as he should, because he is an amazing human being. But Alex, it was. This is a super dumb thing to say, but it's also not entirely untrue. It was bully ball
To some extent, I think that it was bully ball to a major extent, and that's not. Like, it's not a directionally wrong way of looking at what Alabama did, but
no, it's what it was.
I did a statistical analysis.
It also reduced possession times for his defense. That was another big thing.
Of course, it did that. You could pick the years that you would use to kind of compare, do a before and after of when Bama's offense started spreading it out and throwing it. You could pick when Lane arrived. You could pick, when Tua started throwing darts all over. And
the line of demarcation is when Lane got there.
The line of demarcation is hiring Lane because of 280-pound linebackers getting their ass handed to him by Manziel.
That's what Saban uses as the line of demarcation, which is why I use it.
They saw a mobile quarterback completely juke their linebacker system, and basically that was when things fundamentally changed.
If I go 2007 to 2015, which is what I did, sorry, because that's like the middle of the Kiffin era or whatever. I just picked a year. You look at those years. In those years combined, from 2007 to 2015, Bama was 10th in FBS in yards per throw in those years. Now, they were in the hundreds in run-pass ratios. They were a running team. But the point is, they were almost Service Academy-like in terms of the explosion that they created. I was literally about to say this is the Damaris Thomas argument, where it's he averaged 55 yards a catch for a reason. They had the nukes, and they used them several times a game, and it worked really well for years and years. And I think the simplest reason for that, it probably wasn't A.J. McCarron or Greg McElroy or Blake Sims or whoever. No. It was Julio Jones or Calvin Ridley or Amari Cooper. That was kind of at the tail end of what we're talking about.
There have been so many Stetson Bennett's before this Stetson Bennett, folks.
Very surface level. It's very surface level.
This Stetson Bennett stands out because of what the quarterback position has changed. Different story.
Bama this year, they run the ball a little bit less, but they're 54th in the country in yards per throw, despite having Bryce Young. Again, surface level statistical analysis.
Where are you taking me here? Yes, where are you taking me here?
Where I'm taking this is that they lost this year. This is the first year. Jamison Williams is in the NFL, if you didn't notice. John Mechie is in the NFL. This is the first year in a very long time for Saban's Alabama where they do not have a burner wide receiver who looks like an Alabama wide receiver. No disrespect to Ja'Cory Brooks, who's doing his best. No disrespect to the guys who tried to win that game for them against Georgia in the national title game last year. But it is just a different deal when you don't have that robot wide receiver who can do whatever he wants and is just darting past people in the open field. I think it's really important, even when Bama was playing bully ball, that they had that. Now they're a more spread offense. You have Bryce Young, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, you have a fine offensive line, even if it's not to Bama's standards. And what happened?
So where are those receivers?
And they had drops in key moments the other day. Well, I think it speaks to development. You still have 5 stars, but not every 5-star becomes Jerry Jeudy.
So my thing here is that when Lane got there, what changed was twofold. They embraced QB run game. Think Jalen Hurts. They also embraced RPO. That's how Mac Jones won the national championship 2020. It was that offense. It was that offensive shift. It was that when we talk about embracing the times, those are the times that they embraced. They didn't become an air raid team, but the 2012 team threw the ball 19 times a game, and the 2020 team threw the ball, I believe it was 35 times a game. That was off the top of my head. Anyway, what you're saying though, I do agree with as far as the wide receiver because of the cap that it's put on this offense. Bryce Young has had to do it all himself for the most part. Bryce Young did it all himself at Texas. Bryce Young did it all himself at Tennessee, pretty much. Bryce Young damn near did it all himself last weekend. Your man is out here fighting for his life, and he doesn't have the tools. He doesn't have the help right now.
He can go down as
that they need on defense. Also, do not forget about this. This defense is differently constructed than pretty much anything Saban's ever had. This defense has 2 absolute banger edge rushers. Hand in the dirt, come after you, pin the ears back, edge rushers in Dallas Turner and Will Anderson. Alabama, for all of their benefit, has really not ever really had that. What they have had, clearly, obviously, routinely, is dominant, insane, interior
inside
defensive
guys, right?
linemen.
Inside guys.
They don't necessarily have that this year. Even last year, they had Big Phil Mathis getting the job done inside.
Yeah.
They don't have that this year. It is part of what is bringing the defense relatively down. Again, remember, it's Alabama. The standard is the standard. We are keeping them at the highest of the highest perch. So we're judging them against that because they're Alabama.
Am I to glean from your statement that inside is more important than outside because of the quick release that we have in the RPO these days?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just how it's the shortest point between A and B, baby, to your quarterback. Like, ask any quarterback out there, would they rather have outside pressure or inside pressure? They tell you outside pressure. Because it's a longer time to release. And if I've got outside pressure, but the pocket in front of me, guard, center, guard, is at least, secure, I can just step up and deliver the throw.
Oh, okay, cool. I knew something. All right.
But when I can't step up and deliver the throw, Hendon Hooker, because Jalen Carter is in my face, I can't make a full throwing motion. The ball's going to sail because I'm arming it, and we're in trouble. Or I'm just going to dirt it because I can't get it off, and I'm in trouble. Different story. But that's why Georgia, there have been other obviously good teams in this era of college football. Ohio State, Clemson, yada, yada, yada. Nobody's absent Georgia has done, dude, it's blueprint copy paste.
Wait, hang on.
What Kirby's doing.
Let me throw this out here just so I can, I guess, make my kin happy. One could reasonably argue that the success in recruiting away particular positions on defense from Alabama to Georgia and then the development of them might be the reason Alabama is not winning these games now.
Yeah, and I also don't think it's nothing that Alabama is in a transfer reality and Georgia's not. Georgia has zero transfers on that team.
You've just made everyone from Dunwoody to Valdosta just absolutely die with mirth.
Look, I'm not saying the guy can't evaluate talent. Again, is Nick fucking Saban. But when you bring transfers into your building, they alter the culture of your program. Sometimes for better, sometimes for not so better. But this is
Alabama. I'm literally reading 4 books about how Alabama is impervious to that because of the man.
It can they may
what are we saying here, Richard?
They may still take some transfers in March. They may still get back to where they need to be. They're going to have to figure out the quarterback situation, by the way, when Bryce leaves. So watch that space.
Richard,
the dynasty is over. So check, got it.
Jesus Christ,
Richard. I want to push back on the point about the defense. You're not wrong. I mean, there's no Phil Mathis or Daron Payne walking through the door to Vince Wilfork it in the middle of your line, and that's serious.
You just use Vince Wilfork as a verb.
What if I were to tell you that Alabama, just by SP Plus this year, has their best defense since they were number 1 in the country in 2017, the year that
I didn't say it was bad. I said it was differently constructed.
My point is, it's their defense is just in terms of their overall efficiency, and I think that more traditional defensive numbers would back this as well. They've actually done a better job preventing offenses from doing good things against them this year than they have the last few years. And the other side of
Tennessee scored 50 points.
Dude, I'm going to say something.
The other side of the coin, though, I'll say this first. The other side of the coin of not having a Daron Payne in the middle is that Will Anderson and Dallas Turner with him, really Will Anderson, but also Dallas Turner is very good, are better than anything they've ever had at that position.
Right, but Richard just explained why that's not enough in particular situations. And also, the creator and proprietor of SP Plus will tell you that it cannot right now. Its AI brain does not exist to account for situational matchups like we're talking about.
I know. And Richard's point is well taken. I'm just saying that I think a huge amount of this problem is just the lack of the explosive passing game because of the wide receivers. So I think that is a bigger issue than transfer culture or whatever. I
feel like I'm on one of these ESPN shows where I have to give points. So Richard is saying it's interior defensive line. You're saying it's wide receiver. Why not both?
It is both.
I would not say that Alabama's defense has not been asked to do what it was doing in 2012 since 2012. Alabama's defense is asked to do a different thing. That is to Nick Saban's credit as well. I would agree that I think the offensive issues are more important and more detrimental to not getting this team where they want to go than the defensive issues. But the defensive issues still matter, and the defense construction still matters.
I'm with that. Steven, Richard, should we heal ourselves by talking about one of the group of 5 games of the year that is going to happen in the city of New Orleans this weekend?
Let's go.
It's Vested time, brought to you by BetUS, great sponsors of our show this year. Last week in Vested Interests, Richard and Godfrey both went 1-0. They took the Georgia side of that spread in Athens.
That's right.
I and the public voters went 0-1. We were on
Real
Tennessee.
Football won the day.
For the season, Godfrey is 10-3.
Suck
He's really kind of on one.
Suck it.
Richard 9-4. Me 6-7, and the voting public 3-6-1. This week we're doing UCF at Tulane. It's a big one, ranked versus ranked. AAC championship implications out the wazoo. That game is probably going to be some combination. It is going to be 2 of 3 between Cincy and these two teams, UCF and Tulane. And whoever wins this game is going to have very much an inside track to being in that AAC title game at the start of December. Remember, no more divisions. It's just the best records in that conference play each other. Also meaning that whoever wins that game and this game will have a really good shot to be the Group of Fives New Year's 6 bowl rep. Big one, Yulman Stadium, New Orleans. It's a throwback. Patreon subscribers, you will know from Dead Letters Tulane that this used to be kind of commonplace that Tulane would host really big dates on campus in the afternoon on a Saturday, and Tulane football was a big deal. And then people would go at night. They would drive down to Baton Rouge, and it was kind of a Louisiana football doubleheader. It's cool. It's great that Tulane's back in the spotlight. The line is UCF +2. We think Tulane actually going to go ahead and win this one, or what's the deal?
I'm going with Tulane.
I'm also going with Tulane. I mean, I to be honest with you, I don't really feel good about it either way, but I'm going with Tulane. I think the matchup here is quarterback wise, UCF okay quarterback wise. I forgot to check that before we started the show.
If John Reese Plumlee is going to play.
Yes. Okay. So
yeah, worth checking on that one, but Gus is not the most forthcoming, I don't believe, about exactly what UCF plans.
I don't think you'll know it. I don't think you'll know until it happens.
No,
game time decision is the official word.
Gotcha. Okay. So game time decision. Let's assume John Reese Plumlee plays here. I'm going to assume John Reese Plumlee plays. It's just Tulane's defense keeping up with and keeping a lid on UCF's offense. Like, that's the game to me. I don't think I don't think Tulane's going to be tasked with scoring 40 points in this game. I don't think Tulane wins a shootout.
If they're tasked with scoring 40 points in this game, I would switch to UCF as my pick.
Yeah, I don't think Tulane wins a shootout. I do think Tulane keep the lid on UCF, though.
I would agree.
Probably. I think
Got to get off the field on third down, though. Gotta get off the field.
There are a couple of interesting subplots to watch in this game. By the way, the Twitter voters are on Tulane -2 as well. I'm actually going to go with UCF here, though I hope to be wrong. I think it would be much more fun if UCF, if Tulane would win this game. The thing that I'm interested in matchup wise in this game, we talk about like the Willie Fritz offense, right? And like Tulane trying to run you over with kind of their modern version of the triple. I'm actually interested whether Plumlee plays or not in how Tulane plays defensively, because the defense is really the best asset for both of these teams in a way that doesn't fit with what you think of when you think of UCF and Tulane. I specifically wonder a little bit if Tulane is going to have problems with just like giving up a lot on the ground. UCF is a really good running program at this point in their trajectory. Tulane has had, if you look at the teams that have given them problems, the main one is Southern Miss, which is just trying to like kind of grind your ass to dust and run over you. And UCF has more of that in them than maybe you'd think. Like they are, I think, a significantly better and more committed running program than they've sometimes been. Maybe that doesn't surprise you because it's Gus Malzahn. I just wonder a little bit if Tulane might have beef problems in this game.
Richard, are we still doing
because UCF has years and years of recruiting at the top end of the American, and it seems like it could show itself. Also, Tulane could run over them. They had 200-yard rushers last week. Ty Spears is really good. I do think it's going to be a very, very close game.
Richard, are we still doing minority coordinator in an interesting situation of the week? What the hell was that thing last year? What was it?
Travis Williams.
Oh, I was going with Chris Hampton, actually. Chris Hampton.
Okay.
Came over from McNeese, knows the area extremely well, played college football at South Carolina. Alex said that we don't associate defense with these teams, but we do associate defense with pretty much any G5 that is peaking like this into the national conversation. It doesn't matter if they're known for offense. They will almost always have a better than usual or exceptional defense when they're having a moment like this. I think both things are, that's true for both teams here.
All right. Go to betus.com. That's betus.com to join now and get 200% in bonuses with promo code SCD. Nobody in the industry gives better discounts than BetUS. Again, join up, use the promo code SCD, and you get 200% in bonuses on your first deposit. Also, home field shirt of the week. Is this also here?
Oh yeah, because we have a Tulane theme.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we have a lot of podcast business kind of next to each other this week. But this one, folks, I'm quite excited about this one. We've been doing the shirt of the week this season with Home Field, where we pick a school or sometimes a couple of schools, and Home Field puts a little collection of their stuff on sale for 15% off over the course of that week. I think it is safe to say that my favorite Home Field shirt that I own is my baby blue Tulane Angry Wave Home Field shirt. This was part of a big new Saturday run that I had shipped to me in like 2020. I've had it for a few years now. It is a classic. It is one of the great color schemes and logos in college football and all of college sports. And that is 15% off. If you go to our Twitter account, Split Zone Duo, you will see there are actually 2 Tulane shirts that are pinned there. If you use the code ANGRY at that link from twitter.com/Split Zone Duo where it's pinned, you'll get 15% off these shirts. There is another one with a pelican as well. Gray shirt with a pelican. Pelicans, very Gulf coastal. I think the Home Field collection is brilliant. I think it's one of Home Field's best, and we are excited to be able to make it the shirt of the week this week. If you have not bought something from Home Field yet and you want to, we would love if you did that. The promo code SZD20, SZD20, gets you 20% off your first order at the finest premium vintage officially licensed collegiate apparel house in all the land. Thanks to Connor, Whitney, the entire Home Field team. We appreciate you for your partnership, and we appreciate you, our listeners, for patronizing our dear podcast business partners.
This is the great opportunity. If you've wanted to get the shirt that I think orbits around our SCD culture and you don't have it yet, this is the week to do it. And we're giving you a discount.
Angry at checkout.
You're welcome.
Pinned at Split Zone Duo.
You're welcome.
Pinned at Split Zone Duo's Twitter.
Alex.
If you're a one school person and you only wear the shirt of your alma mater, that's fine too, baby.
It'd be slightly difficult for yours truly. Take me to a tasting menu.
Taste it.
All times are central. That's God's time. We're going to go through another somewhat beefy Split Zone Duo tasting menu. Week 11 season. Time flies when you're having fun. Thursday, 6:30 on ESPN. Tulsa at Memphis. Steven, any possibility that this one is a double hot seat bowl?
www.splitzonduo.com. We are about to have a husky boy of a coaching gossip show.
That you're kind of empty in the reporting notebook.
When's that going to be on the feed, Alex? If you're listening to this on the free feed.
A few hours. If we're recording this on Wednesday morning, we'll probably have this out later on Wednesday. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing about it and learning about it.
Richard,
I have said my piece about Memphis.
Yeah, Richard, you're being snide and doing your typical NFL P5 snottiness and saying that you're going to be watching my team, the Falcons, play the Panthers, while I am going to be. Hey, this is a legit question. Can you DVR those Amazon Prime games? Because obviously, I'm going to watch the Falcons.
Yes, they do. Recordings do live in the Prime thing. Yes.
I'm obviously going to watch the Falcons, but Tulsa and Memphis is a game that I will reduce to coaching situations that you'll hear about on the Patron Show.
The Panthers are wearing some sick ass helmets on Thursday night, and I need Kyle Pitts. I need your boy.
See what I can do,
Arthur, to figure out how to get the ball to my man Kyle Pitts. My fantasy team is dying.
You could just FedEx it, right?
I switched all my gym shirts to my entire Cincinnati line from Home Field. In fact, someone at the gym noticed because he knows I'm a Falcons fan and was like, "Are you willing Desmond Ridder into existence?" And the answer is yes. I love you, Marcus, but you couldn't hit a fucking barn with a bazooka after 20 yards.
Friday at 7 on ESPN2, East Carolina at Cincinnati. Cincinnati has, been more gettable this year and was gotten by UCF. ECU has scared some pretty good teams. Do we think that ECU might do that at Nippert Stadium?
This would be a huge statement win for Mike Houston if they could solve that Cincinnati defense. I don't think it will happen, but I do think this is going to be a closer game than you might think at first glance. If you haven't watched ECU this year, going back to week 1 in a game they should have won.
They have had some hellish luck on special teams this season.
Dude.
Yep, couple.
They fixed that, and they're going to be very noisy in the group of 5 next year.
2 of their 3 losses would have, with some special teams things going differently, would be victories.
Yeah.
And they'd be 8-1, and we'd be talking about them a lot differently. Obviously, it's a cold sport. They have a pretty good offense. They do.
Yes.
You can't really say the same for some of their problems on defense. Like, they really can't stop the pass, at all. But they do some things pretty well. They have some good players. I think that it's like the 50th year of college football for their quarterback, Holton Ahlers. So catch him before he's gone.
He's got some Jeff Smoker energy for sure.
Yeah.
I always remind people of this as ECU has crept up. Remember, Mike Houston from James Madison tarmacked the University of Charlotte, where he had a verbal agreement in place to be their head coach as soon as ECU called him in the same cycle. And this is why.
Friday, 9:30, CBS Sports Network, Fresno State at UNLV. So Fresno has Jake Haener back, their quarterback, and is probably going to win the western half of the Mountain West. Very iffy season overall. You will recall that they got beaten up by UConn, but the last 4 weeks they are 4-0. And the reason you haven't heard about it is because they haven't really played anybody in that stretch. They beat San Jose State, which is why they're in the driver's seat of that division.
Yep.
That's the number 86 team in the country by SP+. Otherwise, it is New Mexico, San Diego State, and Hawaii. Yet here they are. They could win this very down version of the MWC. On the other hand, UNLV has started losing a bunch of games and now needs to find a couple of wins to make a bowl. Good news is after this one, they have Hawaii and Nevada. So there's a perfectly good chance that they do it even if they don't win this game.
Great example of a good program being let down by its conference, and that's Fresno State. Maybe the best example this year.
Saturday, 11 FS1, Oklahoma at West Virginia. I demand that someone tell me something about West Virginia because I know what their fan base is talking about right now, and it's not this game.
Yeah.
It's the guy coaching this game.
Uh-huh. What?
I think it's going to come down to
help.
I think it comes down to A, do they have the money? B, can Shane Lyons act as a bulwark?
Hang on.
Does Shane Lyons
I thought, wait.
like a bulwark?
I can tell you all about that. I thought you were going to try and tell me a football thing here. How about we frame it up this way?
I thought you were going to tell everybody about that on splitzoneduo.com.
Of course I am. Splitzoneduo.com. Oklahoma could platform this, and if they could just get to
Oklahoma could beat their fucking ass.
That's where I'm headed. So here's what OU needs right now, because you got some nasty tastes, plural, in your mouth. You need to beat these motherfuckers with a crowbar. Sorry, West Virginia.
Yes.
Because you need to build.
That's nice.
You need to build some goodwill as you go into what's going to be a longer offseason than the last one in Norman, because Red River happened. Okay, K-State happened, but Red River happened. So I would get
this is a take care of business spot.
You need to close down this stretch because Bedlam will be Bedlam, and it looks like Oklahoma State has just decided to blow the freaking supports out of the house anyway. You just need to beat the shit out of everybody while you still can, so you can talk about that all off season. Expert analysis.
I think they might in this game. West Virginia not super geared to shootouts, though they did win one. Their only Big 12 win was more of a shootout type game against Baylor. With
the backup quarterback.
Yep, I think that Oklahoma is going to have a nice night.
I don't know if Oklahoma's defense can necessarily just flatten them out to allow their offense to do that. Their defense.
Well, the thing is though that West Virginia's offense is okay.
JT Daniels.
It is not likely to do what TCU or Texas did.
JT Daniels is about to turn 45 years old.
Oklahoma's going to score so many points in this game.
Okay.
Just because of West Virginia's defense. So like WVU is going to have to score so many points to have any chance. 11 on ESPN2. That's how it works, by the way. You actually have to score more than the other team to win. It's this really interesting thing. 11 on ESPN2.
Fucking
Purdue
episode
at
of
Illinois.
PFF over here.
Richard, a quick one here. This is a question from Andrew, a patron. With Jeff Brom, it seems like the wide variance in player preparedness and May recruiting are just baked in features. So they're always going to outperform bad recruiting.
You mean May
and
recruiting?
It will kill Purdue.
May, not the month of
What did I
May.
say?
You said May, like the month of May.
And I meant to say May. And it will kill Purdue even more as the Power 2 era emerges. That's really a thought. There was a question there, but I want to ask you. Remember, this team just gave up 24, a veritable explosion to Iowa in a loss. Are they just kind of mediocre now? And is that okay if so? Are we done being excited about the Jeff Brom era?
No. Whoa.
No, I think I'm still excited. It's 7-5.
Personnel,
it's
man.
8-4.
Yeah, they don't have personnel that he needs to be exciting. That's all. It may not be as frequent as he thought it would be at Purdue. Let's talk about Illinois' defense, which is a thing I just said out loud.
It's still really good.
It's really good, and it's
really
worth
dominant.
watching.
It's-
And I'm gonna be really interested to see how it holds up against Michigan. Was that 2 weeks from now? Like, I'm fucking interested in Illinois.
I'm not, but I'm not really, but
I'm trying to create intrigue. All right, man. I don't know. I'm thinking about Illinois in a positive way in November. That's a sea change, Alex.
One thing, it's just quickly to the Michigan point. One thing that I do find impressive about Michigan is like when Michigan has their spots against man ball Big Ten teams, they don't play.
Oh no! When that
play.
Big Ten West shit rolls in to Ann Arbor, or they go visit, they chain you to the radiator and show you how it's done.
Yeah. They mess around with
I've
Rutgers
got
for
some
like 2.5
serial killer
quarters and
energy
then-
today. Sorry.
11 a.m. on ABC. Notre Dame and the Naval Academy.
Yeah, might make this one my Nokian road trip of the week. I don't think I can actually go, but it's appealing to me because it's close and also because Navy and Notre Dame is like a relatively rare example of me liking the neutral site thing that tends to get done with it. I can't really pinpoint why.
Wait, is this in Baltimore?
It's in Baltimore. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I thought it was in Annapolis.
No, it's in
M&T
Baltimore,
Bank?
which obviously is a skip from Annapolis. It's at M&T Bank. I tend to like the Notre Dame Navy games. They're always just kind of, to me, it's a singular game in college football in a weird way. Like Navy and Notre Dame have this kinship that goes back to really World War II,
Which was
the Naval Academy sent. Which was what? A big conflict? What are you asking me about?
No.
I remember World War II. I wasn't alive. But
The
what
reason
specifically are you-
why, Alex, how did
do
you
remember
just
why.
duff a segue? King of the segues.
I do remember why. Notre Dame was having enrollment problems, and Navy sent them a lot of people who basically kept the lights on and kept some life on that campus during World War II, and in return provided a good staging area for the Navy to train people. About right?
Yes. And Notre Dame basically said, we will schedule you in football forever.
Yep. So it's just kind of a nice, warm, fuzzy,
It's good vibes.
quasi rivalry. It's good vibes.
If you want to
and we love good vibes.
if you want to hear about the polar opposite of vibes, look up the history between Navy and Maryland.
Yes,
Shit is
great one.
spicy.
So they're also these games are sometimes fun because you'll look up and it'll be the end of the fourth quarter and the game's over and each team has had like 7 possessions. That actually happened a couple years ago.
If you need to rake leaves, I desperately have to get a leaf situation on my maple tree in my front yard. Do it all with the pregame shows. You can nap for exactly this duration, a Notre Dame Navy game, and you'd be totally refreshed all the way through Hawaii.
It's fantastic. NokianTires.com/SCD, by the way. Nokian with an I, tires with an I. We've been doing this all season. They've been tremendous partners of ours. We have their tires on our cars when we have them and on our partners' cars when we don't. Godfrey took some Nokian tires to Birmingham, Alabama. I keep saying Birmingham like it's English. I know.
That's
It's
fine.
Birmingham.
That's fine. It's fine.
I watched too much. I watched too much Peaky Blinders. Exactly.
Are you
That's
on Peaky
precisely
Blinders
what it
right
is.
now? Oh, this is definitely an off-show topic.
I have watched it. I have watched it in the
Okay.
past.
All right. Yeah.
To
Terrible
Birmingham.
last season.
Terrible last season.
They're setting up.
Can we do a
they're
patron
setting
show
up
about
for a
that?
movie.
I know,
So
but
they're
don't
setting up-
waste your
they're setting
last
up for a
season.
movie.
The finale. Oh God, it was terrible. It like
Well, it's not the finale. They're setting up for a movie.
Godfrey,
Yeah, but we
you
shouldn't have
took
known
some
that.
Nokians. You took some Nokian tires. And by the way, one entry in that map equals one entry for a monthly tire drawing. You should definitely put them in there.
yeah.
NokianTires.com/SCD. You took some of your tires to Birmingham to watch
did.
UAB and UTSA with some
I did.
friends.
And I was just trying to set you up for a very simple transition, but of course you had to outdo me as you. That's just Alex Kirshner glory hog. LSU at Arkansas at 11. This is my Nokian road trip of the week because as we've moved into November, it's become less about like, oh, that's a fun destination or that's a neat stadium. And I'm like, I just want to see the anxiety up close. As soon as the smoke cleared on Baton Rouge on Saturday night, they all woke up and saw that they were only a 3-point favorite against Arkansas, and the anxiety kicked right back in. Let me tell you a little secret about this rivalry, the battle for the boot. First off, LSU hates that name. They hate the trophy. They hide the trophy when they win it in the building. They literally hide it. That and the Magnolia Bowl trophy. They hide them. LSU hates going to Arkansas. They hate it. They'll never admit it publicly. It's not the same as like it's the same sort of categories, the Ole Miss rivalry in terms of like quality. But they always go to Ole Miss expecting to win or host Ole Miss expecting to win. And when they don't, it's like a real huffy, pissy attitude. And like a particular kind of older level of fan that remembers the 60s gets real ass hurt about it. This one's more modern since Arkansas came in 92 to the SEC. And they don't like going to Arkansas at all. This is where they just feel like they're going to get bludgeoned. Bad things happen. They hate Little Rock. This is, look, by all accounts, Richard.
Is it in Little Rock or is
no,
it
it's in Fayetteville? But ask an LSU fan about Little Rock. By all accounts, schematically and statistically,
I have to ask you about that.
What about Little Rock?
Well, someone important to me in my life gets to spend.
Yeah.
Work is taking them to Little Rock for
it's a good town.
Long period of time. And I've heard that Little Rock is fun, but I don't really have anything to advise you to do.
I'm not insulting Little Rock. it is a great town. I'm talking about War Memorial Stadium when it's an SEC game. Arkansas turns it into an uncomfortable place, which is what they should do. This is a game by all accounts, Richard, schematically, statistically, everything else. You're going to lean lean LSU in every direction. And yet, especially.
Oh yeah. Arkansas can get them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Arkansas can't get them.
So this is what my road trip is, just to be there.
2:30 on Stadium, North Texas, UAB.
SplitUndo.com.
Yeah, couple coaching staffs that could probably use a win. And I imagine you'll expound on that there.
Different directions, but yes.
A little bit of an angsty feeling for a couple of schools going to the American Athletic in that game, if you're interested in such things. 2:30 on Fox, Maryland at Penn State.
It's a school you love to talk about, and then also the school that you went to, Alex.
Yeah. Rough spot for Penn State because Maryland could beat them and has the talent to beat them. But if that were to happen, it would be quite embarrassing, like very, very much so for James Franklin. Maryland, on the other hand, once again, we say this a lot. It's a chance to make a kind of meh season into a nice one.
A big one.
The last chance for that because it's not going to happen. Spoiler with Ohio State.
I'm not trying to go on a tangent here, but I'm really tired of saying upper class of the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan. Takes breath, creates comma, Penn State. You're just not there, bro. You're just not. But if you want to live in a 1B or 2 slot, you always have to beat the Marylands, and it's not a given.
James has failed to do that a couple of times.
This is a game that matters in recruiting. This is a serious thing for DMV recruiting.
Yeah, more for Maryland because they're punching up. But yes, I agree with that. It's an important recruiting game. 2:30 on ESPN, Louisville at Clemson. Jeffy T, a patron, says, congrats to Alex, hater, on his manifestation of a Clemson loss. But removing QB play from the equation, are there legitimate schematic issues with Clemson's offense?
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
So
the wide receivers,
Louisville has a ton of turnovers. You think they could do some of that against Clemson this weekend?
Where are all the wide receivers stink outside Joseph Ngata?
Where all the wide receivers go?
Man, there is. I'm telling people, Jeff Scott has got to get back in the building there.
Oh, he will.
When Jeff Scott left, that is when the downturn began.
Yeah, speaking of Peaky Blinders, that's a staff and a coach who treats his staff like a family of gypsies. You're either in by blood or not. Jeff Scott's going right back to the valley.
The wide receivers outside of Joe and Ngata are not good. When the wide receivers aren't good, especially with what they run, you've got wide receivers who can't get open, which means you've got coverage sacks.
Yeah.
Sometimes the wide receivers may be open, and then the protection doesn't do great because, again, we know what Clemson does and most certainly doesn't do on the offensive line. I will harp on this until they figure it out. Not having Travis Etienne is a huge deal. They do not have an easy out on offense. Nothing is easy for Clemson on offense. Will Shipley's fine. When they've got a team that they can roll over, like Syracuse, who they're much bigger than, it works. But they're throwing all these screens to these guys who do not have the game-breaking ability and struggle, at least on Saturday, struggle to block, or in the wide receiver's case, what you're supposed to do is just get in the way to make some of these screen passes and horizontal stuff work. They don't have the team speed to do that either. It's just not good.
Richard, we're talking about elite wide receiver play. Let's talk about Wisconsin and Iowa on 2:30 on FS1. I'm going to watch this just because of Jim Leonard reasons. There's a chance to make a statement that they can certify by beating Iowa, just from a rival standpoint. Otherwise, it'll be shit football. That's all I got there, Alex. I don't know if I just wanted to get my joke off.
I love that
you
joke.
did. 2:30 on CBS. Bama, they play Ole Miss.
They're going to win.
Already talked about them.
Comfortable
2:30 on
14-point win right there, baby.
All right.
2:30 on ABC. Nebraska at Michigan. Here we have a case of television contracts
Gross.
resulting in the entire country being made to look at something that
It's nasty.
does not need to be. I'm just bringing it up as kind of a case study.
This week is not exactly the greatest week.
It's a little bit of booty. It's a little bit of booty.
Yeah, this is just a rough spot for Nebraska because, well, it's just not. It's unfortunate that this has to be a national TV game because I think it's just a bad spot. Really good one here. 6 on Fox, Washington at Oregon. I think that Oregon, I tend to be buying into Oregon is really good. They're just not in the Georgia weight class, obviously. But this isn't like, I think a lot of people are thinking, oh, if Oregon's going to run into trouble, it's going to be Utah or it's going to be whoever they see.
No, they could lose this game.
But they could lose this game. I mean, Washington is talented, flawed in ways that some of us probably understated earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But Washington can do a few things to you, particularly
this is going to be a fun game to watch
on offense.
Yeah.
I think this game has shootout all over.
Yeah. So I really love when we get into waxing about more poetic aspects of this world is that the whole Pacific Northwest stereotype culture of a bunch of anarchist socialists, and they're so different than the American South or the Midwest and all this stuff. The coffee crowd turns into Alabama as hell when this rivalry is played. It's Seattle and UW is sort of snooty. Oregon is sort of, this populist. Everybody's wearing a, foil jersey or whatever, but they get nasty about this rivalry. And I love that about it. I'm very excited for this game.
6 o'clock FS1, Kansas State, Baylor. Some shine off this one because of recent events with Kansas State.
Yes.
Baylor plays some kind of rootin' tootin' fun, old style Big 12 games nowadays. They won one against Oklahoma last week with the help of some interceptions of Dylan Gabriel.
Yeah, I don't know what
they have 3 losses.
I was going to say,
good. They're not a bad team.
I don't know what Baylor's doing right now. I know the garbage disposal has been stuck and needs to be reset, but I don't know what to make of Baylor.
What they're doing right now is they've won 3 in a row to kind of put some things back together after a 500 start to the year.
It's a hard team to thumbnail right now and kind of do a quick assessment of because it's sometimes their ceiling looks higher than maybe it is, or I don't know, to be honest.
Also, Baylor, if you look, not really out yet, strictly speaking,
right.
of the Big 12 race. Not out yet. They would probably have to sweep this Kansas State, TCU, Texas stretch, which is quite a feat. Not very likely, but keep an eye on it. 6 on Stadium, FAU, FIU. If you enjoy very regionalized rivalry of 2 programs that basically came into existence at the same time and sort of because of each other, that is an option for you.
They call this the Shula Bowl.
They do call it the Shula Bowl. I don't really recommend it from a quality of play.
Do not watch
FAU better win. FAU better win.
Yeah,
all right, let's move on.
So here's why I'm mentioning it.
Oh.
If FAU doesn't win, it begins to look quite possible that they are not even making a bowl again for the 3rd year in a row under Willie Taggart. So
I gotta get notes on that.
Out.
6:30 on SEC Network, great network. Texas A&M at Auburn.
I can only speak in
A&M needs it.
I can only speak in memes about this at this point. We all know why we're watching this game. I mean,
A&M needs it, dude.
So I actually think that no matter what happens here, I will admit that there will be, because of the recruiting, a bull case for A&M next year. But Jimbo talked a lot and he recruited a lot before the season. And if they lose this game, then you're out of bowl contention on November 12th. Not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
I think the beginning, I think when we start getting transfer portal, like real transfer portal movement, that is a space to watch, especially if this gets into 4-8 territory.
And the offense,
I don't know if it's gonna.
offensive skill position players, maybe.
No, losing out. They don't need to lose out to go 4-8. If they finish 1-2, they'd be 4-8.
Not great.
Yeah.
6:30 in ESPNU. Southern Miss. Coastal.
They'll be fine.
Back.
Yeah, they'll be fine here.
To what?
So
back to near what I think they are supposed to.
I love USM.
Yeah.
USM elevating to a hard out is a huge step up. Still bullish on Will Hall.
Look, I believe that Coastal will win this game and probably somewhat comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
Southern Miss is the only team to beat Tulane, and as I think I was mentioning in context of Tulane earlier,
because
they can hurt you.
They know Tulane
They
really
can
well.
railroad you.
I mean, it's Will Hall's old job. I think that had a lot to do with it at the time. Also, Tulane has ascended.
Yeah, and the other thing is that like most of the year they've been like actually like kind of bad running. Like they just want to do it a lot, and like when it works, but like they've actually done it fairly poorly. The other side of it is that Coastal gives up a lot. Any kind of pass game you want to play against Coastal, they will let you score a lot of points. I don't know. Maybe it's one of the days that Southern Miss runs it really well, which is their plan, whether they do it well or not. And they could be prickly. Just keeping that in mind. 6:30 ESPN2, UNC at Wake Forest. Richard, there's a case that Wake Forest scores a ton of points in this game. Do you believe that this could be doomsday for North Carolina?
Yes. I mean, there's a yes. Yeah, I mean, there's a case that this could be doomsday for North Carolina in that Wake comes out and does what Wake's supposed to do. I will say Wake has been really weird the last couple of weeks, like really odd.
They've lost.
Obviously, they're not going to have 8 turnovers again, but NC State really kind of shut them down on defense, despite Sam Hartman playing well and then moving the ball and all that kind of stuff. I expect them obviously to score a ton of points at Carolina. This is a shootout. This is a 3-point game in my opinion. But I'm telling y'all, North Carolina, if North Carolina is able to pull this out and North Carolina is able to win this league at 12-1, North Carolina will have an outside shot at the college football playoff.
It's fucking insane.
Now, they got to win the games.
They will get evaporated if they make the call.
They've got to win the games.
Godfrey,
we all acknowledge that.
Godfrey, I think that you are doing something that that I have also done, which is, and I talked about this, I think on Sunday, so I apologize because it is a repeat. I think we talk too much about how bad UNC's defense is and not enough about the fact that they have a world elite offense right now and that Drake May is that guy. Do
you think after last week that North Carolina would not literally die on the field if they were the 4 seed against Georgia? They would be.
Look, they would.
No,
they would.
Neither
they
of
would
us.
be
Nobody
a
is
baby
saying
blue
that.
grease spot in the fucking dome.
Nobody is saying that.
Neither of us are going to come near to that.
Well, all I said was they would get. All I said was they'd get their ass kicked in the playoff. That's all I said.
Good New Year's 16. Yeah. Good New Year's 16.
No,
I
they're
will say
not.
their defense has been playing better in recent weeks.
I would go with less
Wake
shitty.
Wake Forest can render that moot. They certainly have that ability.
Yes, they can. But they are. Yes, they are weird. All right.
6:30 ABC, TCU, Texas. Arguably the biggest game of the week. I'll be there. Yeah. That's my Nokian road trip. Hook 'em, see in Austin. I think Texas is going to win this game outright, by the way. I do think the party is over for our Frog friends.
Richard, they still haven't lost a game. You can't call it over. Even if they lose a game, they're, 9-1?
I think the undefeated playoff party is going to come to an end on Saturday.
I love this matchup.
My thing here is twofold. One, TCU ran the ball pretty well on Saturday. Quentin Johnston did not play, had an ankle injury. Not sure about his status this upcoming Saturday. But I think there's one thing that we should not overlook in this game, and it is the fact that Gary Patterson is in the building at Texas. And if you think Gary Patterson, who spent all the summer coming up with a game plan to beat Alabama, doesn't have a very, very, very large amount of focus on this game to assist with the defensive game planning to try to stop TCU. Whew, you got nothing coming. You got another thing coming.
What is the thing that the Texas defense has probably been best at this year? If you just look at what their overall production footprint's been like, it's been that it's really. I was going to say the deep pass. They've stopped the run well as well. What is TCU's main thing though, Richard? What is the thing that Max Duggan and Quentin Johnston are very good at doing together?
Deep pass, but with Quentin Johnston, it's not more of a catch and run, but Quentin Johnston, I think Quentin Johnston does everything, and I think he's really at his best catch and run. When the way he exits catches, especially with his backs to defense, is insane. He's an insane football player.
Yeah, I foresee the kind of strength on strength matchup here being that Texas secondary with all of those 4 and 5 stars against Quentin Johnston running very far down the field. Going to be fun. I don't really have a prediction, but that's best on best, and it is certainly the best that TCU has seen in that area. I think including Alabama. So I shouldn't say certainly there, but it's Alabama caliber. And it was hard to evaluate that game because Quinn got hurt so early on. But that's strength on strength. I'm excited to watch it. Richard, have fun in Austin. You got any good places to eat down there?
Go to Uchiko.
Yeah, there's a Guyanese place that was on Eater Austin's Instagram page, which now name escapes me, but I will probably be headed there Friday night to eat some food of my people.
I might need you to take me to a Guyanese place sometime. They have them in New York? They must.
Yes, absolutely. Queens.
They got everything in New York.
They got everything in Queens.
Stephen Godfrey, working on anything else fun that you want to tease people about before we head out for the week?
I mean, I'm reading 4 Nick Saban books for a reason. This shit ain't recreational.
Thanks, everyone. We will see you on the Hurry Up on Sunday. And also, we've got 2 pretty meaty Patreon shows coming up for you this week. See you soon.